Hello and welcome to session 3 about responding effectively to questions. So let's log on and dial in quite quickly to this. So this is useful because during your endpoint assessment, you're going to have to contribute towards other people's ideas or conversations. And to do that, you're going to need to be able to respond effectively. So here we are. So we're looking at L2.3, respond effectively to detailed or extended questions and feedback. So again, you've got your outline of the session, you've got some information, further reading, you've got your worksheet, and you've got your reading book. So let's bring up the PowerPoint presentation and let's start. So mastering the art of question and navigating detailed questions and feedbacks with confidence. Let's hit play and then we can start. Bear with me, my computer seems to be going a bit slow this morning. Computer has decided to completely go slow. There we are. Brilliant. Okay, so welcome to the art of responding effectively, the importance of responding effectively, active listening. So I'm not going to repeat stuff that we've already done. We've already done active listening. That was in L2.1. Clarify questions, repeat the question, summarize the feedback, acknowledge the feedback, providing a response, using empathy, being honest, dealing with criticism. That one definitely needs to be learned. So many people that I give feedback to become upset or concerned with the feedback. Well, when it doesn't appear to be the way that they want it to appear. And therefore, you know, I always have to say to people, when we give feedback in two ways. Well, first of all, we give a judgment, either you've passed or failed something. And then we try to give feedback. And feedback isn't there to pull you down or for us to be nasty. It's for us to give you criticism to help you improve. In fact, it's meant to be completely the opposite. It's meant to be motivational and supportive. But it's very hard to do that if somebody is looking at something from a very negative point. So, yeah, we'll go into a bit more detail there. Using positive language, avoiding defensiveness. Yeah, absolutely. Taking action, handling questions that you can't answer, handling aggressive feedback, using humour. Handling feedback in writing, using technology to respond effectively, the do's and don'ts, and some practice exercises, excuse me, and some case studies, right? Let's look at this then. So, welcome to the art of responding effectively to feedback. So, in today's world, communication is key. Whether you're in a business meeting or having a conversation with a friend, being able to respond effectively is crucial for success. This presentation will provide you with the tools and the techniques needed to master the art of responding effectively. Throughout this presentation, we'll discuss the importance of active listening, how to act or how to ask or clarify questions, how to provide clear and concise response, and how you will cover how to handle criticism, aggressive feedback, and questions when you can't answer. By the end of this presentation, you'll be equipped with the skills you need to respond effectively to all situations, and I'm sure we have seen that superhero before. So, the importance of responding effectively. Effective communication is key to success in any field. And responding effectively to detailed or extended questioning and feedback is a crucial part of that. It shows that you're actively engaged in the conversation and you're willing to listen and you're willing to learn from others. In today's fast-paced world, we often don't have much time to spare. When someone takes time to ask a detailed question or provide an extended feedback, it's important to respond in a way that shows we value their input. This can lead to a better relationship, improved performance, and increased trust and respect. Active listening is a crucial skill when it comes to responding effectively to detailed or extended questioning and feedback. It involves focusing on the speaker, understanding their message, and the importance of the appropriateness of the feedback. So to listen actively, you need to give your full attention to the speaker. This means avoiding distractions like your phone or other people in the room. You also need to show that you're engaged with nodding, making eye contact, and clarifying questions. And finally, you provide appropriate feedback for summarising when the speaker responds with empathy. Now, in health and social care, we have a process called SOLAR. It was by a theorist called Egan. And his theorist was, we sit openly, S, we are open, O, we lean forward, and we respond, SOLAR, S-O-L. Is there an E there? Could be an E. And we use empathy. So yes, that's right. So just by sitting, being open, and again, not twiddling, nothing in our hands. But we should be sitting, excuse me, we should be sitting kind of opposite each other so we're able to clearly see and communicate effectively. Wonderful. So clarifying questions, asking clarification to questions is a powerful tool to respond to effectively. But this is the summarising skill that we just learnt in 2.1 and 2.2. So being able to hear what we're being told, to repeat it, and then to come forward. So respond effectively to detailed or extended questions and feedback. Clarifying the question helps you have a better, deeper understanding of the speaker's perspective. It also helps avoid making assumptions. We know assumptions make an ass of you and me, and avoid just jumping to conclusion. Some examples to clarify questions include, can you give me an example of what you mean? What do you mean, or what are your main concerns about this issue? How can I help you better understand your point of view? Or how can I help you have a better understanding of my point of view? Or by asking these types of questions, you demonstrate that active listening and engaging with other speakers, which helps build trust and rapport. So repeating the question or rephrasing, when responding to detailed or extended questions, it's important to repeat the question back before answering. It's not only to ensure that you fully understood the question, but also shows the person that the question you are actively engaged in the conversation. Repeating the question can also clarify any misunderstandings and prevent any miscommunication. It's a simple yet effective technique that can make a big difference on how you respond or how your response is received. So basically, if somebody says, how are you today? You go, how am I today? Thanks for asking. And it gives you a bit of mind space. And I think what happens quite a lot of the time, we go into the world of auto response. And auto response is kind of working on a very subconscious level, like we just start talking and we're not really thinking through what we're saying. So some techniques is about slowing your cognition down, so the way that you think down, giving yourself a bit of time to respond to situations. So by repeating the question, rephrasing the question, it gives you an opportunity to understand the question, but also an opportunity to think about a response. So summarising the feedback. Summarising the feedback is a crucial step in responding effectively to detailed or extended feedback. It involves restating the key points in the feedback in your own words and demonstrating that you've understood the message. And again, I think what's really important with feedback is generally we know people do this praise sandwich where we start on something positive, we look for the area of improvement and we end up on something positive because it's meant to be motivating. In my experience, what tends to happen with that is all of the person has heard is the positives. They've not heard the area for development or that improvement bit. Or what they've heard is just the negative and none of the positive. So it's really useful for you to ask them to repeat back what it is or to summarize the feedback that you've given, because it shows you how they've received it. So if we think about Shannon and Weaver, sender and receiver, it's important to know how they've received that feedback, because you can then address any misunderstandings and you can support them to come to a better, to manage that statement better. So to summarize feedback effectively, it's important to listen carefully to the speaker and identify the main points of their message, then rephrase these main points with clear and concise language, using phrases like, so what I'm hearing is, those that know me, I do that all the time. So what I'm hearing is, so what you've told me is, am I right in saying that? Because I'm just trying to confirm before I move forward what I've understood to be correct, because again, I don't want there to be any mistakes in what I'm hearing. So yeah, so what I'm hearing is, am I right in saying that? You're just confirming what you've heard. So some great techniques here. Rephrase the question. That's a great question. So what you're asking me is, how many times a day do I do X, Y, Z? Thank you for that feedback. So the main points of this are you think that I need to do X, Y, Z. However, I was doing that bit well, or that bit was my strength. And that's useful. That's useful. They're useful tools. So acknowledging the feedback is when someone takes time to provide feedback. It's important to acknowledge their efforts, so thank them. You don't have to agree with feedback. Normally feedback is an opinion. We should be, grateful for opinions. We don't have to agree with them necessarily all the time. But it is useful definitely to acknowledge feedback. So thank you for that. Not only does it show that you value their input, but it also helps build a stronger relationship with them. By acknowledging their feedback, you're creating open, honest dialogue, which can lead to better communication in the future. I love people that give honest feedback because you just know where you stand. And I think it says a lot for somebody's character. It says a lot for somebody's belief and value system. When they're able to give feedback, because ultimately when we give feedback, we are doing it from a point where we are trying to develop others, we're trying to raise awareness, we're trying to be supportive. And you just you know where you stand with people like that, and that's a useful skill set. So one effective way is to acknowledge the feedback is to thank the person for giving the time to share their thoughts. Again, what we've just said. You can also repeat what they've said to ensure that you've understood their side. This shows that you're actively listening and you value their opinion. Providing a response. So when providing a response to detailed or extended question or feedback, it's important to have a clear and concise, One way to do this is by the STAR method. So the STAR method here is a great method, again, something I use all the time, where we look at the situation, we look at the task, we look at the action required, and we look at the results. So situation, what's going on, what was the task, what was the action, and what was the outcome of that. Start by describing the situation or task in hand, then explain the action you took to address it, and finish with the result or your actions. The method helps provide a focused, organized response that directly addresses the question or feedback. Another helpful tip is to use simplified Another helpful tip is to explain or illustrate your points. This is not only to make your response more engaging, but also helps the audience better understand your perspective. However, be careful not to go off topic or provide too much information. Stick to the main points and keep your response concise. Use empathy. So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others when responding to detailed or an extended question and feedback. Using empathy can help you connect with the person when giving feedback. It can make them feel heard and understood. And empathy here might be, you know, I can see you've put a lot of work into this, nodding, you know, this must have been difficult for you, or I can see how much effort you've put in here and how much time it's taken you. So I want to thank you for that, because I know this is an important task. Just trying to see it from their perspective is really important. For example, if you have to give somebody a feedback on a project or work in hand, you can use empathy by acknowledging their perspective and thanking them for their time to give you feedback. You can also clarify questions and better understand. This one, I absolutely agree with 100%. Be honest. If you're honest with your feedback, you never have anything to fear, as long as as long as you're being factual, you're not being opinionated. This isn't just what you feel. And if it is what you feel, then make sure that's clear that actually, look, this is just my opinion. Okay, so everyone's entitled to an opinion. The problem with opinions is, and I've learned this over the years as well, only give them if you're asked for it. If you're not asked for your opinion, don't go around giving it. Don't offer your opinion to people, because 9 out of 10 times people don't want to hear your opinion. What they want is the facts. They want you to be honest. They want you, has the task been achieved? Has it not been achieved? Is there room for improvement? Is there not room for improvement? Have they met the standards? Have they not met the standards? By being honest and by being factual, you've never got anything to worry about. The moment you start going off of topic, the moment you start to add your thoughts and feelings into this, it becomes quite messy. So being honest. Honesty is the foundation of effective communication when responding to detailed or extended questions of feedback. It's important to be honest about what you know and what you don't know. This doesn't mean admitting ignorance, or rather acknowledging when you need more information or clarification. Apologies for drinking. I'm still not well at all. So if I don't get myself lubricated, I'm just going to be coughing and sneezing and splattering like I was yesterday. Being honest also means being transparent. That's me being honest. Being honest means me being transparent about your thought process. If you're unsure about something, say so. If you need time to think, ask, be upfront, know your limitations, and show that you're able to take the conversation seriously and you are committed to finding the best solution. So dealing with criticism, again, I think this shows the truth of a character of somebody. We're all meant to be on a quality improvement cycle in life. None of us know everything. We're always trying to improve, to strive to be better. And one of the things we do in health and social care quite a lot, and then I guess in other organisations, but what we definitely do this a lot, is reflective practice. So reflective practice means I should be able to analyse something, or I should be able to reflect on something and come up to roughly the same feedback or conclusions you can. So therefore, criticism for me never really comes much as a shock, because I've already thought about the feedback and I thought about what you might say, and in my head I've already put together some kind of next steps. And that's years of training. But what it means is I'm not sitting there seeing it through one lens, that I'm able to see things from a 360-degree point of view. And that's a massive skill set. When people give you feedback, they're not doing it from a malicious point. They're doing it from a point, I genuinely think people that give you time, give you their feedback, they're the genuine people. It's the people that are quiet, sitting back, they're the ones where you should be more concerned about, because at least if somebody's being honest with you, you understand your point of view. You may not like it, but you understand it. It's the ones that are quiet, it's the problems, because you don't know what they're thinking or feeling. At least people that give you feedback and are being honest and are speaking up, they've had the courage to do that. So dealing with criticism can be difficult to handle, especially when it gives the details of extended format. However, it's important to remember that criticism can be valuable feedback too. It can help us to improve. One effective way to respond to criticism is to listen carefully, acknowledge the feedback, and that shows that you're taking the feedback seriously and you're open to making improvements. Another effective way to respond to criticism is to ask to clarify the question. This can help you better understand the feedback and what changes you need to make when responding to criticism. It's also important to avoid getting defensive. You don't need to get defensive. You know, at the end of the day, thank somebody for their criticism. You know, that again, it's a point of view, it's their point of view. They don't just have to be right, but it's their point of view. Try and stay calm and focus on the solution. So my top tips here would be, thank you for that. That's a really useful or insightful, or thank you for that. That's a different way of viewing something. I will by all means consider what you've just told me and repeat what they've just told you. And yeah, from there, just move forward. Because if somebody is giving you their opinion or their thoughts, remember that's just their opinions and thoughts. They're entitled to them. They don't have to align with yours. You know, we're allowed to live in a world of different opinions and thoughts. What we don't need to do is launch back and show that emotional response. There's a process called emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence, handling criticism, is a key sign to emotional intelligence. So somebody who scores quite highly on emotional intelligence is somebody that's able to take criticism well. Thank you for that. That's your, you know, I understand what you're trying to tell me. I can see what you're saying here is this. And actually, all I'm doing is confirming everything you've told me. It makes you feel heard. It makes me summarize everything. In the back of my head, I can agree or disagree with it. If I strongly disagree with something, I don't necessarily have to take it. I could then say, you know, that's a very interesting point of view. Could you explain that further? Because again, I need further clarification, and that's fine. But what I don't need to do is start launching with a defense strategy. So using positive language. So when responding to detailed or extended questions, feedback, it's important to use positive language. This means focusing on what can be rather than what can't. For example, instead of saying, I can't do that, try and say, here's what I can do. Now, I love this. I call it the grenades versus the positive attitude. It's so easy for somebody to go, I can't do that, or that can't be done. Why not? You know, why is there a limitation on this? Everyone should have this ability to strive and thrive and push boundaries and work hard. But the first thing we say is, oh, I can't do that. And I'm very much a believer of there's no such word as can't. You just haven't found the way. You know, and in life, there's lots of things that I thought I couldn't do. I did them. I pushed myself. It becomes incredibly tiring. But you do it because you don't want to be set back by your own thoughts of limitations. However, it may be within your capability set. It may be someone's asked you to do something that you genuinely aren't yet able to do. And what a great response to that is, I can't do that yet because I'm not yet trained or qualified. However, what I can do is if you qualify me or do my training, I'm more than happy to do that. And that's really useful because what you're saying to the person is, you know, yes, I absolutely hear you. I understand what you're telling me. I can't do that at the moment because of my limitations, but here's what I can do. I can do X, Y, Z. So you're trying to use the language in a much more positive, focused way. And solution-focused response, everyone loves somebody. I love talking to people that are solution-focused because, again, solution-focused thinking seems to be a rare skill. And it's about that collaboration, about working our way forward. So never say I can't. Always say, here's what I can do. I can't do that. Because it becomes frustrating. It's frustrating to leaders and managers and people when they're hit with this resistance, because it just doesn't come across as supportive. By saying, look, here's what I can do. You've given me something to work with, rather than I just can't do that. So I can't do that closes conversations down. It's really negative. It's dreadful language. Just try and avoid it the best you can. Now strive for, that's an interesting point. Here's what I can do. I guarantee that will move you forward in your career, build trust, and change the way in which people see you. So avoid being defensive. When receiving feedback, it's natural to feel defensive. Just hold those feelings inside. You don't have to be defensive. Nobody's attacking you. It may feel like that sometimes with negative feedback, but that's not what this is. It's about developmental stuff. And if the moment you go to attack mode, you can't hear anything. You won't hear the good. You won't hear anything positive. You won't hear any solution focus. All you hear is the pity party in your head. So remain actively listening, remain engaged, remain in repeating what you've been told. Here's what I can do, and you will avoid being defensive. And I promise you, it works. So when receiving feedback, it's natural to feel defensive. However, it's important to avoid this, as it can prevent you from truly listening exactly and can understand and the understanding that the feedback has been given. Instead of immediately jumping to defense, take a moment, breathe, actively listen to what's being said. And I always say to people, it's when I go silent is when you should worry the most, because when I'm going silent, I'm actively listening and thinking. When I'm talking, I'm auto-responding. But when I go quiet, I'm actively thinking of a response. I'm trying to put in a lot of thought into how I manage a situation. One effective way to avoid defensiveness is to ask to clarify the question. By seeking to understand the feedback better yourself, you show that you're open to hearing it and willing to learn from it. Additionally, try reframing. Oh, I love reframing. So what reframing is rather than seeing it from one point of view, try and see it from another. So for example, you're looking for the positives in a situation and not the negatives. And a reframing thought is, I want to say there's the guy that invented light bulbs, is it Edison? Please don't go online and start becoming keyboard warriors because I got that wrong. I'm sure it's Edison. Anyway, he turned around and said, I didn't find 1,000 ways not to do something. I found the one. So what he was trying to say is, look, I had to fail to win. I had to get it wrong to know that that's not the way to do it. And by reframing that thought, he was able to carry on. But if he took every single failure as a negative, he wouldn't have found the right way to do it. I probably haven't explained that too terribly well. But anyway, what I'm saying here is just reframing your thoughts helps you succeed in the long run, because it doesn't bog your head down with all of this negativity and trying to pick your neuroadrenaline up. Oh, sorry, not your neuroadrenaline, your adrenaline. It's neuroadrenaline, you need to bring it down. And you can tell when you become defensive because we have signs and symptoms in our body. our mouth gets a bit dry, we can feel that increased heart rate, we can feel that we're getting a bit hotter, our hands might be clenching a bit, we can feel our jaws tighten up, our thoughts seem to speed up. And if you're going through all of that, that's adrenaline. Your body's releasing adrenaline, and it's releasing it for the fight, flight, freeze response. And if you've got lots of adrenaline, the best thing you can do is not respond, but just try to let that adrenaline calm down. So think about your stress technique. So deep breathing, going outside, just a little bit of quiet time in your head. Sometimes what you're better off saying is, again, use this technique, ask them to rephrase the question, get them, buy yourself some time, take some deep breaths, manage your cognition, so manage the way that you're thinking before you respond. Because again, most of the time we respond in high adrenaline, we regret it because we don't think with clarity, we don't talk with clarity, we talk with heightened emotions, and that generally gets us into trouble. By holding that in, taking deep breaths, managing that cognition, you're less likely to avoid saying something that you regret. So taking action based on feedback is crucial to improving performance and achieving your goals. It's not enough to simply listen and acknowledge feedback. You need to take steps to address it. So one effective way to address actions is to set specific goals. That's your SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. For example, if you receive feedback and your presentation is too long, you could set a goal and reduce the length of your presentation by 20%. Another approach for an action plan with specific steps is to address the feedback. This could include seeking additional training or coaching, or seeking new opportunities. So again, that could be a new, that's a rephrase. Okay, fine, I haven't quite done it like that, but I'm going to learn this now. Great. Handling questions you can't answer. This, again, I think just goes back to honesty. I generally think honesty is the best way forward. Or what you tend to see is what politicians do. They never answer the question, right? They just go round and round in circles, and you never get any clarity because they're just too busy going around and round in circles. Rather than say, look, I don't know, I'll get back to you, we end up on this treadmill. But anyway, handling questions you can't answer, it's going to happen at some point. You'll be asked a question, you don't know the answer to it. It can be tempting to bluff or work your way through it, but this is never a good idea. Instead, just be honest, admit you don't know the answer, and this will help build trust with the audience. Once you've admitted that you don't know your answer, there are a few things you can do. Firstly, you can offer them to find out the answer and get back to the person who asked the question. Or second, you can ask if anyone else in the audience knows the answer. See, great, collaboration, teamwork. Finally, you can use the opportunity to start a discussion or explore further topics. So depending on what I'm doing, if I'm doing a presentation to a group of people and there's time, I may say to somebody, I definitely have done, doesn't know this answer. If I don't know the answer, I've definitely said to people, right, let's do some research now. Let's see if we can find that answer. Or if I haven't been able to find it, I'll say to somebody, look, I'm not 100% sure on that. What I'm going to do is I'll go away, I'll do my own research, and I'll post to you the answer to the topic. Because I want to get it right for you. I want to make sure that if I tell you something, I absolutely get it right. And that's really important to be seen that you're able to be that type of person, because people know when you're blagging. So handling aggressive feedback can be a challenging situation. It's important to remain calm, not to let your emotions take over. So that emotional intelligence, managing your feelings. One effective way to handle aggressive feedback is to listen actively and try to understand the root cause of the aggression. Once you've identified the cause, you can respond in a calm and professional manner, addressing the underlying issue rather than react defensively. Another approach is to use empathy when responding to aggressive feedback. By acknowledging the person's feelings and concerns, you can help to de-escalate the situation and find a solution and work together for both parties. It's important to avoid taking the feedback personally instead of focusing on finding a constructive way forward. So negative feedback or aggressive feedback might just say, oh, I can't believe you've done that again. So just stepping out of that situation and saying, so going back to what I can't do, this is what I can do. So it might be, well, I've done this because X, Y, Z, this is what I can't do, this is what I can do, or you just say that I'm really sorry you're feeling like that. I'll try better next time, or I'm acknowledging I'm sorry you're feeling like that. However, this is what I can do. So just acknowledging it and understanding root cause is really important. And root cause, there's a great technique, which is just asking why 7 times. So let's just say, and I'll give you an example that I've from work, because it's probably a bit easier. So I had a member of staff rock up, they were late their first day. Now, I have a real problem with timekeeping. Time is key in business. Time theft is the biggest loss of industry business there is, because ultimately time theft is away from the people working after it, it's away from the business, and it just shows me that you think you're more important than everybody else. You have the same time as everybody else in this world. So time management is an absolute skill set. And I struggle when people don't appreciate the fact that them being late holds everyone else back, because that's just disrespectful. It's not fair on a team of people who's waiting to go home, who's done a night shift, if the person on the day shift just thinks they can rock up when they want. So it causes me a lot of anger, and I can probably give quite firm, aggressive feedback in a leader's position in that point. Because again, I respond from a frustration of a whole team's point. However, let's talk about an example. So I had this member of staff who turned up late, and I've said to them, it's really not good enough. You're letting the team down, you're letting the service users down, but most of all, you're letting yourself down, which is a dreadful thing. It's not what I used to get told when I was younger in my days. So you could argue that's an aggressive feedback. Then when we got to it, it was like, why are you late? Question 1. Oh, I'm late because I missed the train. Why did you miss the train? I didn't get there in time. Why didn't you get there in time? I was late getting up. Why was you late getting up? Oh, I had a really busy night, or I had a late night. Why did you have a busy late night? Oh, I was studying, or I was out partying, whatever it was. Why was you out studying? Or what was you studying for? Why were you studying? Oh, I've got an exam due. Okay, well, what? So basically, the reason you're late is because you're trying to burn the candle both ends. So the problem here is you're up studying and doing your essays and research, but you're doing that at night. And actually, by doing that, it has this knock-on effect of you not being able to sleep properly, not being able to think properly, not being able to get to work on time properly. So what that says to me is what? Ultimately, we need to find a better solution. So do you need to look at your time management skills? Do you need to maybe study a bit earlier? Do you need to just be then setting your alarm, or maybe you need to be setting more alarms? There is always a solution, but it's never the root cause. It's never what's in front of you. With feedback, you've got to really dig sometimes to find out why somebody is doing what they're doing. There. Using humour. So using humour can be a powerful tool when responding to detailed or extended feedback. It can help ease tension, can build rapport, and make conversations more enjoyable. However, it's important that using humour carefully and appropriately. So again, I tend to think that I use a lot of humour, and it's definitely my defence mechanism, especially within mental health. I have been accused sometimes of not being funny, but that's then for me to listen and to go, oh, that one didn't go down so well. It can be seen to be slightly unprofessional at times. However, it's about understanding the audience. So humour, it's fine when it's appropriate, but it can lead to real problems or breakdowns of trust and relationships. So be mindful about humour, and remember, what you find funny, somebody else is not. Handling feedback in writing. So again, the problem with writing is your sender and receiver. So the writer has the intention, the receiver will read it in their way, but let's see what it says here. So handling feedback in writing, when it comes in feedback in writing, there are a few key things to keep in mind. First and foremost, it's the importance to read the feedback carefully and thoroughly before responding. I have responded to a few emails in my time quite quickly, and then somebody said to me, "Did you read it?" And I was like, "I read it," or "I heard what I heard in the writing." Did transpire I didn't hear or read it properly. Have had a few of those happen in my career, especially when you're busy. It's a bit like active listening. We need to do active reading, just being present in the room to actively just read what's in front of us, and not to jump to conclusions of the writer's intention, but to read it properly. Been there, done that, got that t-shirt. This will help us to ensure that we fully understand the person's concerns or suggestions. And once we've read the feedback, take time to reflect on it and to consider how we can use this to improve our work. When you're ready to respond, be sure to thank the person for their feedback, acknowledge their valid points that they've made. If you disagree with what they've said, try to do so in a respectful and provide evidence to support your position. Finally, be sure to follow up with the person once you've made any changes based on their feedback. This shows that you value their input and you're trying to continue to improve. Effective technology to respond, or using technology to respond effectively. Technology has revolutionized, well, of course it has. I mean, AI is just leading the way on this now. And again, the way that we use technology to communicate and respond to feedback. So when using tools like chat box, emails, templates, automated responses, you can ensure that responses are timely, consistent, and effective. However, it's important to remember that technology should only be used, should never be used as a genuine human interaction. Whilst it can help streamline your communication process, it's crucial to maintain a personal touch, to show empathy when responding to extended questions or feedback. The do's and do nots of responding effectively: do listen and do engage with the speaker. This will help you understand the question and better respond. Don't be defensive or dismissive of the question or feedback. That can shut down communication and prevent productive conversations from taking place. So here's a practice exercise. What I want you to do is we will ask you to simulate a scenario where you've received detailed feedback from your client. Your first task is to respond effectively and actively listening, asking to clarify questions and providing clear and concise response. You'll have 5 minutes to review the feedback and prepare your response. Then you'll have 3 minutes to deliver your response to the audience. Remember to use empathy, avoid defensiveness, and use positive body language through your response. So pair up with somebody, ask them for some feedback, and then prepare for the response. And then what we'll do when we meet up, when we have a talk next, you can talk me through what you did and why you did that. Exercise number 2, you're now ready for the second practice exercise. This time you'll be given a scenario that you need to respond to effectively in detail to extend questions of feedback. Take the time to think through your response before sharing it with the group. Remember to use active listening, ask for clarification, repeat the question, summarize the feedback, and respond using empathy, avoid defensiveness, and consider using humor where appropriate. So this is really useful because when you do your endpoint and you're listening to each other and sharing ideas, you should be able to do that. So now let's look at a case study. So case study 1, you will examine in the scenario where a customer is unhappy with the service they've received from a company. The customer has sent a detailed email outlining their concerns and complaints. Your task is to analyse the email and come up with a response that effectively addresses the customer's issues. As you work through the case study, keep in mind the key points we've discussed in this presentation, such as active listening, using empathy, and avoiding defensiveness. You'll have the opportunity to discuss your response with the group and share feedback. So again, you've got that in the handouts, so go to the handouts, have a look at the case study, and then prepare your answer. Okay, in case study 2, we'll examine a scenario where the customer provides detailed feedback on a product. The feedback is crucial, but also includes suggestions for improvement. Your task is to analyse the feedback and come up with a response that acknowledges the criticism and also addresses the suggestions for improvement. As you work through the case study in small groups, consider the following questions. What are the key issues raised in the feedback? How can you address the customer's concerns? And whilst incorporating their suggestions for improvements, what language should be used to convey your response? So, thank you for joining me on this journey for mastering the art of responding effectively. We've covered a lot today in the session, from active listening to clarifying questions to using empathy and humour. Remember, responding effectively isn't just about the right answer, it's about creating that connection with your audience and building trust. As you go into the world, whether it is your personal or professional life, I encourage you to put these techniques into practice. Responding effectively is a skill and can be honed over time. And with dedication and effort, you can become the master at it. Thanks again for being here today, and I wish you all the best with your future endeavours. Wonderful. Right. So, here you can see we've just summarised everything then. So responding, you need to know how to respond to thoughts, detailed, relevant to the question, and you should know how to expand and go into more detail when prompted. So responding, make sure that you respond politely by saying thank you or please. When you ask the question, think about what has already been said and think about that's relevant to the question. Look out for keywords to help guide you through the response. And does the questions have facts or are they opinions? For example, to what extent do you agree with the government's decision? Is this asking for thoughts or an opinion? Hopefully you've gone thoughts. However, the question, what did the government decide to do? Is this asking for facts or specific details? So, question words. For each question, words has the meaning for. So, where, a location, A. Where did you go on holiday? Answer, Barbados. How, a method. How did you travel to work today? There you go, I took a train. So, it just gives you an idea there. Examples of opinions: think, feel, agree, disagree, and facts, obviously sound, show, cause, and quotation marks. So again, just thinking about those differences. And here's a few more that you should look out for. How many, when did this, what evidence, please could you explain? There's your worksheet for the session. So if you want to download that, and go through the worksheet, you're more than welcome to. And then finally, you've got your extended reading book there. So, thanks for watching this. Your next section of learning is L2.4. And in L2.4, you are going to cover, let's just have a look, make, read and present questions to obtain specific quotations, ask details question to obtain specific information and range of context. That's quite a lot there. And present, make me and present. I think we're missing something there. So, no, make requests and ask questions. Fine. So, I will see you all in lesson 4. Take care. Bye for now.